Today I'm going to teach you how to do a basic black and white edit of an image in Photoshop. The steps are very similar to a color edit in that we're going to be repeating the same workflow with duplicating the background layer, checking our levels, editing it to be a true color photo, and then eventually changing it to a black and white image. So the first step is going to be Command J, duplicating the background layer in our layers palette. Step 2, we're going to go down to our black and white cookie and we are going to select the levels option. With this option, we're going to check our darks and our lights, moving the sliders, black triangle for the shadows to the end of the mountain peak, and in this case it looks to be okay with a white triangle to the end of the mountain peak. When you finish with that, exit out in the top left corner of your adjustment layer option, and then we're going to transition to the color balance option. Now, a lot of people might ask, why are we color correcting it if we're eventually going to make it black and white? It's always good practice just to fix the image before you transition into the black and white option. In this case, image looks okay. You may decide that you want to warm it up a little bit by taking out some of the blues. You can move it to the left or moving away from the cyan palette to the right. You're going to exit that out as well. And then I'm going to go down to the option for brightness and contrast. You may look at the image and see that there's an area that's a little bit too dark based on the lighting. The light coming from behind the dog and then the shadow cast on his eye. You could try to fix that, but in another lesson later on, we will be talking about dodging and burning, which will allow you to lighten up specific areas of the canvas. In this case, we're kind of limited with the brightness and contrast option. If I make it too bright, I'll lose some of the detail down here in the bottom where the dog is. So I can exit that out, and now we've perfectly color corrected the image. We're going to transition into making the image black and white. So for the final step, we'll go to our black and white cookie, and we'll look for the adjustment for black and white. When this dialog box comes up, the nice thing about it is you have a little bit more control rather than navigating through a black and white option at the top, in that I will be able to change areas of the image based on the original tone. What I mean by that is if you make the eye less visible, you're going to have the original colors here where it's red and yellow. When I move these sliders eventually to the right, it will make the red and yellow pixels of the image brighter. When I move them to the left, it'll make it darker. Show you what I mean by that. So now I'm in the red tone here, which is the dog's fur. If I move it to the right, you can see that those areas on the canvas are getting a little bit lighter. Same with yellow. Some of the fur around here is a little bit of the yellow tones, so I'm making that lighter. The opposite would be to make it to the left. Now, students often ask, what am I looking for? Well, you're looking to make the image have visual interest. You do that by having some true blacks, some nice pops of whites, and then a lot of different variations of gray tones. So if I made the whole entire image too white or too bright without any grays, it would probably be boring. You can play around with these sliders to see what gives you the best results. When you're ultimately happy with it, you'll exit out of your adjustment, and then you can see the transition from color to black and white. You can also go back into the black and white, maybe tweak a few things, change it up, modify your image. In this case, I didn't like how bright the snow was, so I'm going to make the snow a little bit darker in the back so I can get some detail of the dog's body. Once you finish with that, you can go back to your brightness and contrast and modify that how you see fit. And then here are all your adjustments. If you want to kind of mouse through and see what you had and what it looks like now, you can click on one of the eyes and then drag your mouse up and back. If you do not like the black and white adjustment layer, you can always throw it into the garbage down at the bottom. And if you make a mistake and you want to backtrack, as always, Command Z will bring you back to your last workflow. To save the image, File, Save As, and save as a color image. I can name this black and white. Remember where you're saving it to, and then hit Save. And that is how you change an image from color to black and white.